If you are someone who is always waiting for tomorrow, 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 before you actually start taking action to improve your career, and you identify as some sort of procrastinator, then you are definitely at the right episode, because in this episode, I'm going to walk through with you stage by stage of a procrastinator based on my observation from my 20,000 community and following on social media. So if you are new here, hi and welcome to the Corporate Survivor Podcast, where you will learn everything that you need to know to survive and thrive in your corporate career. And hi, my name is Mei Ping. I'm an ex-corporate leader and nowadays turned career coach. Okay, all right, so back to today's episode, and this is something that I have been observing. So now, if there's one thing you need to know about me, is that I am an observer and I like to learn things based on observation. Now, I'm very active on multiple social media platforms, particularly on LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course YouTube and Spotify. And particularly on LinkedIn and Instagram, I ask a lot of polls, asking very interesting questions just to get a sense of like where my community sees things and what are some of their pain points and so forth. So based on my observation, I've actually noticed a couple of groups of procrastinators, and I think that even though we want to be very hardworking and be an action taker all the time, it usually doesn't realistically happen like that. And that's why in this episode, let's just go through this stage by stage based on my observations, and if you relate to any of them, let me know, definitely. Okay, so stage zero of a procrastinator is someone who is just finding excuses to not want to do something. Now, I identify like the stage zero procrastinator is basically someone who, I guess deep down, like that you're trying to avoid something, whether it's avoiding pain in your career or you're trying to avoid growth in your career, but basically you do know that you're avoiding growth, right? You're avoiding career development. But the problem is that you don't want to admit it. So why I call this a stage zero is because you're in the avoidance stage, you're in the excuses stage, and maybe on the other side, you are also in the escape mode as well. So that means that you may find yourself telling yourself, oh, tomorrow, or, actually it's not really a big deal right now. I can like figure it out later. I'll do it later or whatever. Or you find yourself like scrolling on social media a lot, like following a lot of content creators, for career advice, career tips and so forth, but like zero action. So that's stage zero. Then moving on to the next stage of a procrastinator, on stage one is someone who actually acknowledges that they are a procrastinator. Now, there's a little bit of difference in that because there are also a lot of people who just like refuse to acknowledge and find excuses. But there's definitely, stage one, or rather, if you come to a realization and you do admit that, okay, I'm procrastinating, but I choose to procrastinate and I feel fine with it, then that's stage one. So some examples of the stage one procrastinators that I see in my community are people who consistently say that they are struggling at work, they are consistently struggling to adapt to their job, and they vote on this. So whether I get these messages on DMs, on LinkedIn or Instagram, or this part of my community, they would vote on my post saying that everything's really bad, like everything's going really badly, Monday sucks and everything else. So basically there are signs, and they know, right? I mean, to be able to vote and click saying, yeah, I'm struggling, that means that But the problem is that actually what's stopping them, because it could be escapism mode, right? Very similar to stage zero. Or it could be someone who really believes that they can find free content and they rather spend hours, time, energy, mental sanity trying to plow through all the free content that they can find on the World Wide Web, rather than actually getting real help. So this could be in the, I won't say escapism mode, but maybe like exploration mode in a way. Of like trying to find free content, of like sort of acknowledging the problem, but not necessarily kind of like solving the problem, if you understand what I'm saying. So After that, there is the stage 3 of a procrastinator is someone who actually decides to get help. So what does deciding to get help actually mean? So maybe you, after looking through all the free content that you found online, you decided that, hey, like this webinar looks really interesting, or like this program, or like this course or this workshop, it really looks like it's something that I can learn, right? So you register, sign up, but you don't turn up. So it's almost like signing up for gym membership, making a resolution to be healthy, but actually not turning up for any of the training programs, and like not turning up for, the gym sessions and so forth. So that's stage 3 of procrastinator, of like, these are the people, and maybe you identify with them, these are the people who feel good doing that initial action. But remember, right, the initial action, you haven't kind of gotten to the result yet, but, people in stage 3, like the stage 3 procrastinators, feel really good taking the first action. So in the context of like health, it's almost like feeling happy that you sign up for like a training, but I don't know, like a personal training session, but not appearing. It's like buying yoga pants for your upcoming yoga class that you do not attend. So that's basically people who are under the illusion of action. Like maybe that's the best way of saying it, like illusion of action, where like you think that you're taking a step. I guess you are taking a step in the right direction, but you don't actually reach the conclusion. So that's stage 3 procrastinators. Now on to stage 4 of procrastinators. Now, these are people that I've kind of started noticing because, as you all know, I do have a career training and mentoring course called the Corporate Survivor, where you basically learn my 3-step framework that I have used myself, as well as taught to hundreds of my clients and students in over 40 countries. So the 3-step framework basically teaches you how to survive in the corporate world and build a very strong foundation. Now, aside of my course, my point is, for stage 4 procrastinators, they are people who sign up for programs, attend in the first 30 days, and decide to procrastinate after. Procrastinators in stage 4 are definitely better than stage 3, because procrastinators in stage 4 are actually taking action. They actually chose to invest in a course, in a program that they know can actually help them in their career. And they started taking action. At least the first 30 days is usually when they are most enthusiastic. And I tell you this because that's really what I see in my program as well. So, but the problem then is like, okay, what happens after the first 30 days, and what happens after your enthusiasm dies off? Because let's be honest, it's very difficult to get, to be enthusiastic like 24/7. And I don't really think that's actually reasonable. But just saying that, like, what happens after the first 30 days? And in the context of my course, I do see it a lot. Like, for example, for a lot of students who sign up, I could see that like the first 30 days is when they are like the most enthusiastic. They actually go through the course and kind of go through the modules and the lessons. They're all like nicely organized and so forth. And even in my program, I do give a 6 months group mentoring calls. And particularly, I think the first month's mentoring call, like the first or second month mentoring call, a lot of students will attend. But after that, you kind of see the enthusiasm die off a little bit. So the challenge for stage 4 procrastinators is that how do you actually keep the momentum? Because it's the momentum that brings you career advancement. It's the momentum that brings you success, right? Because let's be honest, like career success is not an overnight thing, right? It's a process of applying, implementation, application, execution, and actually continuously getting feedback and pivoting, and also learning from your mentor stories, learning from other students and other people in your community, and that's actually how you improve. So if stage 4 procrastinators can actually find that momentum and actually commit to the outline of the programs, outline of the career courses that they sign up, they will definitely achieve a lot more success. So if you are a stage 4 procrastinator, I want you to ask yourself whether how fast have you truly given up in any career program that you have bought, right? In any career courses that you have chosen to invest in. How fast did you give up, or are you still pushing on? Because that part is really, really important. And moving on to stage 5, and this is really the final stage of procrastinator, If you are a stage 5 procrastinator, basically you are someone who is truly committed to success, right? You go through the career courses, you go through the modules, you go through the lessons, and you attend the mentoring calls. You book your one-on-one free career consultation call with me, which is something I included as a special bonus for the corporate survivors, my students in the corporate survivor. So you go through all of that. But why do I still call you a procrastinator at stage 5? That is because a lot of people believe that just going through the program one time is actually enough for success. It's not, because think about it, like, okay, how old are you right now? Maybe you are 20, 25, 30, 35, or maybe even 40. So if you're in any of those categories, and that's really like where my majority, the majority of my my course students are, that means that you have another 10, 20, or even 30 years in your career. And just going through like a really good program that you bought once, it's really not enough, because you really want to combine knowledge with implementation and execution and practical step by step, so that you can actually get feedback and navigate. And why this is so important is because I see a lot of very hardworking people, I see a lot of action takers actually stumble in stage 5 of procrastinator, because they think that, oh, I've learned it already, I know it already. I'm like, okay, great, but like, have you executed it correctly? Are you facing like no problems at all at work? It's like zero struggles, everything fine, you are positioning yourself right, you are getting recognized, you know exactly what you're doing, bosses say that you're great, the next level say that you're great? Probably your answer is no. And that is because at every single career level, it requires a new version of you. And that includes a new mindset, a new skill set, new knowledge, and so forth. But it also means that you must have perfected, or rather, built a very solid foundation of, how you even got there in the first place, because it will just become more complicated as you go along. And therefore, that's why when I first introduced my group mentoring calls to the corporate survivor, it's a monthly session where students can basically ask any questions that's related to their workplace struggles, or climbing the career ladder, or career advice that they really want. And the reason actually why I introduced the mentoring call, and I told all my students this, and it's in the introduction video as well, is that your career is a journey. It is a marathon, it is not a sprint. So if you are under the impression that, whatever it is, like only one time, like everything's gonna work out, like, it's not gonna work out perfectly. Even if you can nail it, it's probably there are still a lot of things that you are still learning how to navigate. So that's why I'm calling it the 5 stages of procrastinators, or rather, 5 stages of procrastinating, based on the observations I have made in my community of 20,000 people across social media, and of course, based on the actual teams that I have managed in my corporate career in global multinational companies across multiple different industries. So that's something that I will tell you is true. And if you're listening to this episode and you relate to the stuff that I'm saying, I want to know from you, which stage are you currently at the procrastination? As a procrastinator, which stage are you at? Are you in stage 0, someone who is refused to acknowledge that you are not taking action, escapism? Or are you in stage 1, someone who is, hunting for free content, just waiting for tomorrow? Or the next stage, and the next stage? So which one are you? Drop me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram and let me know that you've listened to this podcast episode, and identify which type of procrastinator are you. And if you are someone who is actually serious about your career and you're watching this podcast episode live, I just want to remind you that 11 months of the year have already passed, and you have 30 more days to pretty much decide if you want next year to be a repeat of this year, right? Good or bad. But if you're listening to this episode right until the end, or rather watching this episode right to the end, probably your career this year didn't go that well. So you have 30 more days, and I want you to actually decide and make a decision right now. How would you want next year to be? Make a commitment and start taking action. Because let's be honest, I can't help you as a career coach if you don't decide and choose to want to help yourself first. Okay? So that's the reality. And if you are ready to take the next step, then definitely I invite you to join my program, the Corporate Survivor, my career training and mentoring course. So I've actually just released the 2023 monthly group mentoring dates, and we're probably going to go through some very interesting topics during our monthly mentoring call. So definitely looking forward to that. I'm probably going to send the list to my students a couple of days from now. So looking forward to meet all the students. And if you are someone who really cares about your career, I hope to see you in my course as well. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, remember, if you don't care about your career, no one else will. So till then, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.